Hello, everyone. This is Arup. I'm the lead solution engineer from Salesforce. What I'm going to show today is a very basic setup of SAML flow, SAML SSO flow between Okta and Salesforce. So first, I'm going to show you the setup on the Okta side. Then I'm going to show you the setup on the Salesforce side. We will do a basic test of for a particular user logging in from Okta into Salesforce. Then we are going to try the same thing out using a React Native mobile app, a React Native mobile Salesforce app. All right, so let's go ahead and see the setup on the Okta side. All right, so I'm the administrator. I just logged into my Okta console. What you're seeing over here is I have provisioned an application called Salesforce. This is my application, and this application is SAML enabled on the Okta side. So if you see the sign on, it is it is enabled, and the login URL is that when I show you the Salesforce side, you'll see that I'm using a custom domain. That's why this is my custom domain, and this is my login URL that I'm using. What you can do is also you need to import the certificate into your single sign-on. When you set that single sign-on up in Salesforce, you can actually create the certificate from this XML file, and then you can just import it into Salesforce. It's just pretty easy. From the user setup on the Okta side is that I have a user called dev2, who's he's dev2 is the user who is actually going to be a user simulating logging in into Okta and seamlessly logging into Salesforce. Okay, so the most important thing to remember is that the way handshaking is going to happen is by the username, and that is what on the single sign-on settings of Salesforce, the field that actually gets exchanged between Okta and Salesforce will be the username. So this is the username that is being set up on the Okta side, and the the user is also entitled to use this application. So the assignment of that user has been done for this particular Salesforce application. All right. Now on the Salesforce side, the same user is being set up, which is dev2 at okta.com, the same username. On the single sign-on settings, so if I go to my single sign-on, I have created a single sign-on. You see that the SAML identity type is username. That is what the user record in Salesforce, the username field is going to get exchanged, and since they match, it will be a seamless login for dev2, for the user dev2. All right, so these are the setups that gets when you import the certificate. These are the setups that you're going to be automatic. These fields will automatically populated. Entity ID is the custom domain, because Salesforce in this case is the service provider and Okta is the identity provider. So that entity ID is the service provider, and these are my login URLs on endpoints for my login URL. All right. Now in this org, I do not have community enabled. If I had community enabled, you would see some more endpoints for the communities as well. But it's the same thing whether you do this, you do just the login or with the community. Okay. And this login URL is the same as being set up on the sign-on for this particular application in Okta, which is exactly this login URL. Okay, so I know that there will be a exchange of the certificate from Okta got imported into Salesforce, so I know that there has been an exchange of the metadata from the identity perspective. All right, now going back to the single sign-on settings. So this is the single sign-on settings I have, and then on the my domain, let me just go ahead. All right, on the my domain, you see that since I have the single sign-on settings being set up, you would see an option for the Okta SSO. Just click that, because what I would like to see is that when the user logs in, I would like to see the ribbon of Okta SSO down below in the login credentials window. Okay, so now I've pretty much have the setup done in Okta. I have the setup done in Salesforce. I'd like to test out this user dev2 logging into Okta, and that person should be able to seamlessly log into Salesforce. So let's try that out first. This has nothing to do with the mobile app yet. All right, so I was trying it out, so I'm going to log out from here. This is actually the user dev2. Bear with me for a second. This machine is a little slow. All right, cool. So I'm going to do is, let's just delete this. All right, so I'm going to log in as a dev2. All right. Okay, and I should be presented with the Salesforce application. Great. Now here, can I just... All right, so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just log in into this application. And because of the setup, I should be able to seamlessly log into my Salesforce application. Okay, great. I'm able to log in into my Salesforce application. And if I see, this should be the dev2 user. Fine. I'm going to test one more thing on this one is instead of logging in from the Okta console, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use the custom domain URL, which is this one. And I would love to see that the Okta SSO, there you go. I would love to see this and use this one to log in into Salesforce. So I should be presented. There you go. I should be presented. All right. So I'm pretty good at this point is because the SSO is working fine between Salesforce and Okta. All right. So now let's go ahead and create a native Force React, a React native Salesforce app. Okay. So what I have here is I already actually created it. So I actually installed the CLI. The version that I'm using, just to note, is that I'm using the Force React 7.0. I think this is the latest from Salesforce. And I use the CLI to create a React native Salesforce app. Once you start doing that, it'll give you a bunch of options like the target platform, the application name, package name, and everything else. You just go ahead and do all that. The code gets scaffolded. There will be, there will be a templated shell of code getting automatically generated for you. And once it gets completed, it will request you to open this workspace on your Xcode project, okay, which is over here. All right, so this is my the templated code that gets generated once you write that Force React create, okay. I've not touched a single piece of line of code in this particular editor here. And also you can see the JS files that gets created, which you can open in a different editor, which is this. What you're going to see is that my expectation is that once I start building this application in Xcode and start the iPhone X simulator, I should be presented with some users as a set of users on the screen. Okay, so let's try it out. So what I'm going to do here is that because this takes a little while. So what I did is I started off the simulator right here. And what I'm going to do, one more thing I wanted to mention is that once you finish off creating the Force React create and it gets completed, it is definitely highly recommended that you start your npm start, because if you do not do that, you will see a JS bundle error on your iPhone simulator. Okay, so once your code gets scaffolded, you just do your npm start and wait till this part of the code gets executed. Once this part is done, you're pretty sure that your JS bundles are ready to be served up in your iOS app. All right. So what I'm going to do is that this is my simulator. If you see the simulator now, you're going to see that I do not have any Salesforce app yet. So let's go ahead and build this one. All right, this takes a little while to build and launch, so it succeeded. Very shortly, you'll see the icon, which is this one. Launching. All right. Should be seen. All right, good. So the login screen got here, and I know I'm using custom domain, so I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use my custom domain, and my custom domain is, okay, this is my custom domain. So if I hit continue, it will get resolved. The custom domain is going to get resolved, and then I should be, yep, there we go. So this is what I was expecting. I'm going to go ahead and do the Okta SSO, and then I should be presented with the Okta screen, Okta credential screen. All right, great. And okay, I should sign in, and then, handshaking, if it is successful, it should be presenting to me with, all right, I'm going to just hit allow. And I'm seeing my set of users, and I've successfully logged in. And what will happen is that in the consecutive login, so if I go ahead and, let's see, I hope that, the application doesn't exist anymore. Now, if I go ahead and click this application, I would not be presented with my login credentials anymore because I have already been authenticated once, right? And I'm seamlessly logged into Salesforce application. So that is what I wanted to show is the setup on this Okta side, SAML setup on the Okta side for Salesforce, and the user setup, the setup of the users, SSO, and the domain setup on the Salesforce side. Basic testing of an application, of the application using a dev and using a user, and then creating a React Native Salesforce app, and then having the same flow, SAML flow of authentication between Salesforce and Okta. All right. Thank you very much.